Did we do the intro?
No. We're doing it now. It's recording. See?
Oh, good.
Yeah. Right. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
You have a computer.
Oh, you have a computer.
Amazing.
I have coffee.
We have the technology. You had coffee.
I'm
It's
going
gone
to
now.
bounce up and down.
This week on this episode of the Carmudgeon Show, presented by Jason Cammisa and Derek Tam-Scott, we discuss the answers to questions posed in response to Ask Me Anything. For all of 16 seconds, we asked people to provide us with questions.
Not
and more did they.
one single profane question.
Good point.
We just really disappointed in all of you. You, all of you. Terrible. Great questions, but yeah.
So we
have a
will
lot of ground to cover.
Discuss those in the coming hours, hour and change.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what's ahead in addition to the clap.
I said there was nothing profane. And Derek got the clap.
Well, it was not directly... Never mind. On we go.
We're ready to go.
Away we go.
We're recording.
Yeah.
I'm going to try something new this week.
What is it?
I'm going to be quiet.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
That's
don't be ridiculous.
what people sign up for.
The Carmudgeon Show is a part of the Haggerty Podcast Network. I am not Derek Tam-Scott, and he is not Jason Space Cammisa.
Okay. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can talk about how this episode of the Carmudgeon Show is sponsored by Viper Industrial, whose products include these chairs, creepers, this chair,
and
these chairs,
that creeper,
which is based in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
It's a family-owned company started by two brothers that are car guys. The products are reinvented. They have reinvented the shop chair and now attacking every other product that sucks in the shop. I'm trying to think, do they make I have a sucky smoke generator, like to smoke test. I wonder if they'll make Viper smoke testers.
I feel like a smoke machine is always kind of a somewhat casually engineered device. Maybe it's just the budget point at which I operate.
Yeah, it's because you go to Horrible Freight and get it there. Anyway, the Viper line includes chairs, stools, creepers, fans, and a tool cart. And even wheel dollies are coming this summer.
They are proudly made in the United States and are used by the best in the business, allegedly, because we are using them.
Yep.
We both went to the same place. Industrial grade materials and real materials, minimal plastic. It's all pretty good stuff.
And through June 22nd, Viper will be giving away a 2021 Python Green Porsche GT4. For every $5 you spend at viperindustrial.com, you'll be entered in a chance to win the GT4 plus $15,000 in cash. Full rules and details at viperindustrial.com. That's VYPERINDUSTRIAL. Sorry. VYPERINDUSTRIAL.com. HTTP://www.
Okay. Thanks
also,
for helping.
Stop it. Go to viperindustrial.com. Use the coupon code Carmudgeon.
That's the part I was trying to get to save $50.
Yes. $50. $50. I'll give you $50 if you get my laptop. Okay.
You need your laptop.
We fucked up.
Did we?
Yeah. We asked people for AMA questions, and our request posts were live on the Instas for 36 minutes, and the final page count of
questions
is 54 pages long. We had to delete our posts. Oh, can you remove that, please?
Sure. Surely.
Don't call me Shirley. Also, can we talk about the fact that your mom's car is in the background?
Okay.
Derek drove his mom's car to school today.
My mom's car is in the background. No, she was going on. So she got new Michelins, and one of them has a leak, and she was going on a long trip, and she said, "Can I just leave my car with you and take one of yours?" And I said, "Sure."
What'd you give her?
The C43.
Oh, that's a perfect mom machine. I actually literally gave my mom my C43 AMG.
Oh, yeah, that's what one does.
Yeah. Let's see how many speeding tickets your mom gets in it.
Yes, she's good at talking her way out of tickets. Have we talked about this before?
No.
Oh, she got pulled over going 120 miles an hour and got out of it.
That's good.
And another time she got pulled over. She had just harvested an eyeball from a cadaver, and she told the officer about that, and that also got her out of a ticket because she was like, "Do you want to see it?" And she offered to show the officer.
Like Asian mom doctor and a Brooklyn Italian mom. Look, I just pulled somebody's fucking eyeball out. I gotta get out of here. Give it, like the guy's on my ass. Yeah, I don't think that's something my mom would have gotten out of.
The eyeball. She did have eyeballs in the car.
Maiming someone.
Enucleation, it's called.
Okay.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It's somewhere in between. Anyway, okay, so we're just going to start. Let's just answer the questions. And as fast as we can. I don't even know how many we've decided to answer. Many we have not. If you did ask questions and we're not answering them, either we just didn't think it was going to fit in this episode, or
we thought it was so bad it wasn't worth answering, or we thought it was so good that we have to do an entire episode about it.
So this is the mediocre question episode, basically.
These are the relatively
fat part of the bell curve.
Defined, sort of reasonably expedient questions.
Yeah, the ones that would take us 45 minutes to answer, we'll just do a whole episode on. And there were some great questions. So, God forbid tomorrow your car collection gets wiped. Starting from scratch, what's the first car you would get as a one-car solution to enjoy reliably until all the insurance checks come through? Could be a year from now. Okay, I take exception for this. I had a claim recently with Haggerty, and within 1 hour of the appraisal getting done, which was all within 2 days of me starting this whole process, the money was in my account.
Not everybody insures with Haggerty.
Well, they should.
Yes,
so
that was easy.
That's my answer. What's the first car you get as the solution? Whichever one I find the first, I'll be buying immediately.
But it says reliably, and it's one car.
Mark 1 GTI with a 2-liter 16-valve swap.
Yeah. I'd probably buy a W202. I'd like my C43 as a one-car solution, but if you needed, or a GTI or a GT86. Okay.
Mark 1 GTI, fast. Okay.
Have you ever owned a car so dull you couldn't care what happened to it?
That's a great question.
This is your Corolla, isn't it?
I mean,
you enjoyed the drama.
It was not reliable.
The drama of the lemon
experience. No, but I still cared what happened to it. It was still my my Isuzu Pup.
Oh, really?
The Isuzu Pup. It was $300.
But you didn't care what happened to it afterwards? You didn't. What if the person who bought it wanted to use it? I've
never heard from him.
Demolition derby or something.
I would be disappointed. Okay. I don't think I would have not sold it to him. I don't know, but I couldn't care what happened to it. I would park it anywhere.
Yeah,
I just didn't care.
I've never had a car like that.
Anything I've ever leased was like that. My first e-Golf.
I've never owned a car like that. Even my e-Golf, I cared about.
I care about my cars too much. That's a problem, but okay.
If you asked a suspension expert to fix your C43, what would you ask to make it right? I would make low impact harshness decrease. That's it.
Low impact harshness?
Low speed impact harshness decrease.
Yeah, soften it. Thoughts on the A124? That is the convertible version of the 124 Mercedes.
Yep.
Spectacular.
You think it's spectacular? I hate it.
It's beautiful.
Oh, I hate it.
Oh, let's fight.
The car was never supposed to be a convertible. There's all these engineering workarounds, and the thing is a big rattly trap, and it has the same hydraulic roof problems as a 129, and it seats 4, and it weighs as much as the sun.
Two suns.
Yeah, and it's uglier than a 129. So why would you never? There's no reason why anyone should buy a convertible 124. Fucking, I don't know, 4 people.
But for those other people have friends, find somebody who needs a 4-seat convertible. What else are they going to buy? A Volvo C70?
Okay, it's better than a C70.
Yeah, it's the best 4-seat convertible you can buy.
It's the only 4-seat convertible you can buy.
Ta-da. End of story. Okay.
Besides the Camry Solara.
How do you stop yourself getting a Mustang? How do you stop yourself getting too attached to a car? I fucking don't. Clearly. I've had one for 28 years, one for 20. No, I
My answer is easy.
Sell it.
No, it becomes valuable enough that you'd rather have something else for the same amount of money, or you find something else that you need to have and you need to sell it for space or money reasons.
I can't.
That's the solution.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love the R129 and 850 CSI, but not the base E31 or 928. What is the special sauce for big coupes?
I like the 928, actually.
I know.
I like it.
Ugly.
I think it's cool enough. It's interesting.
Somebody left a tire inflator in it overnight by mistake.
Okay.
It's not the base. It's not the base car that's the problem. I think cars should have.
You're talking about the E31.
E31. Yeah, or big coupes. I think big coupes are wonderful so long as they have a very clear identity and know what they are and what they should be. The problem with the E31 was it looked like a sports car, and then they made it.
It's the size of a small nation. How does?
But it's a sports car. It looks like a sports car and drives like a 7 Series, just not as well, like not as good. Like, what's the point? If it's going to look like that, it'd light your fucking hair on fire, and it didn't. That was the problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it didn't cash the check that it wrote.
Right, you can have a big Bentley, and if it drives like a big Bentley, there's nothing wrong with it. If it drove like a Corolla, it'd be an issue.
What are the criteria for a fun car in a place without fun roads, i.e. Florida? You know, like there's no reason to have a Miata or an Elise in Florida, I believe, right? Is there a reason to have a car like that in Florida? I don't think there's actually a reason to live in a place that doesn't have fun roads.
There's no reason to live.
That's my answer.
Kill yourself. Oh, no, sorry.
Move.
That's much easier.
Okay. We got a lot of questions about this particular subject, and I have no idea why. I think there were 3 or 4 people who said, what is your one-car solution in New York, or what do you commute in New York?
You know what you commute in New York? A fucking one-way bus ticket out of there. That's the only thing I would commute in New York. Get out of that hellhole. I'm from New York. I can say that. Get the fuck out of there. There's no reason to be there. If you're into cars, you shouldn't live in a city like New York.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fundamentally the answer. Why, like, what do you do with it? You're not driving to work in it because there's no parking at work and there's no parking at home.
You're going to drive 45 minutes to get to the sawmill so you can have a curve. I'm sorry. It's just not you don't live in New York if you're.
Yeah.
How many people ask us these questions? Clearly,
I don't know. A lot of people are clearly stuck living in New York and want a car, but I think you don't want a car if you live in New York.
Prioritize.
And then if you drive somewhere and you're in fucking New Jersey.
No, Jersey's got some good roads. Upstate New York has some good roads. It's all fine. I'm sorry. Cars are too important to me. I could never live in New York.
I feel the same way.
So we can't.
You need to rearrange your life.
If I had to commute in New York City, it would be a Range Rover. No, it would be
too big.
It would be a Raptor. It would be a Bronco
drive
Raptor
over all items
or potholes or taxis. Yeah, homeless pedestrians, whatever. Okay. Any weird niche corner of automotive history need exploring?
I think the pre-war era generally, there's so many crazy stories of people like Wild West cowboy shit that just nobody knows about today. And anytime I go down like some reason that I'll be researching there, I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I read stuff and I'm like, this happened? Like this sounds like somebody just made this shit up. Like it's totally wild. So there's a lot like in Britain there was all this crazy shit going down. So I think like anytime I have an occasion to spend time learning about like particularly the pre-war era, especially in the United Kingdom, like people just making shit out of shit and driving around on runways and doing events from here to there and all this shit. You're just like, this is insane. I can't believe this actually happened. So
there are many, many weird niche corners of automotive history that need exploring.
That's one of my favorite things about what I do is getting to go to those places, having a reason to go to those places.
Okay.
This question made me laugh. You and Jason are runners-up for Pope. Choose your Pope-mobile.
GMA T50. So I can be in the middle and I can have my entourage to my sides. My bitches and moes, whatever. I don't understand. I don't know what they're called in the Catholic world, but a bitch and a hoe and I'm done.
Okay. But you're not on display.
It's got a windshield.
Okay.
What the fuck? You're the goddamn Pope. I'm sorry. Probably shouldn't say those words. You're the blessed Pope. You do what you want.
That's fair.
If I were the Pope, I'd do what I want. I have a T50.
Okay, so then it's whatever car you most desperately want. No, you need 3 seats. The T33 only seats 2.
T50 it is.
There you go. Okay. I don't know that I have an answer. I just immediately went to the G because I think it's so damn cool.
G-Wagon?
The G Pope. The G-Wagon Pope, that mobile that actually was a thing.
What are the right amount of buttons to have in a car?
Depends on what functions the car has. 1 button for every function.
I think the idea is everything you use continually and all of the fine-tuning shit should be in a screen. So, for example, climate control should have temperature up, down, fan up, down, and maybe an AC on, off button.
Seat heaters.
Seat heaters. Everything else in terms of like, I don't have a problem with touchscreens having a change distribution of warm air on your seat heater so that your ass is 98 degrees, but your back is 94. That level of customizability should be there, but you also need a row of macro buttons a la BMW's early iDrive, right? Where you have 6 or 8 buttons across. One is like navigate to home. Not that I'd ever use a navigation system. One is, it could be an audio setting or a radio station, just macro buttons that let you sort of favorite things. But primary controls that you use all the time, you should have a button, and that's it.
Okay. If neither of you could work in the auto industry, what else would you be doing? Would we be doing? Huh. Okay. Do you have an answer?
I don't understand the question.
And I refuse to answer it.
I don't know. I'd probably, no, I don't know.
I used to work in aerospace. I think it would be fun to be an attorney.
Why, so more people could hate you? I have a law degree. You don't want to go to law school. Although you would like it.
Yeah, I think I would.
I
think I would get value out of that. I think structuring arguments and words would be fun.
I love to argue. It's my favorite. Second favorite pastime after cutting people off. Is it acceptable to arrive at a funeral in a convertible with the roof down?
Depends whether you like the person who died or not and respect them.
Depends on whether the person was cool or not. I mean,
yeah, if they were like sort of just fabulously lighthearted and had a great sense of humor, then that would be like a perfect way to.
Still, if you have like a 6-foot black, veil, it should be flying behind the car, Princess Grey style, and get like wrapped in a wheel and strangle you or something. I don't know. I have no problem with that. My funeral, fine. Go ahead. If it's a sunny day, why not? Has Jason ever ridden a motorcycle? Is he willing to try? Yes, I have. Yes, was willing to try. I can't be trusted. I can barely be trusted on a bicycle, which is powered by my own lack of power. Yeah, I'd ride another motorcycle. It's too much temptation. I don't want to do it. It's too easy to do death-defying things too quickly.
Yes.
And some people have more self-control than others. Some people have no flinch reflex. I have a pretty strong flinch reflex.
Oh, I don't have much of one.
That's why you're good at it on a bike. Yeah, I think people who are just wired like me, that you're just jumpy, it's just not a good thing. So yes, I'm willing to try it. Yes, I've ridden a motorcycle. But every time I've ridden a motorcycle, I've done things that I've immediately regretted. So I've called it.
I sort of do that too. You're just like, oh, this is I know you hate David E. Davis, but there was this quote he wrote about the 500E when it first came out where he said, like, he sat up at 3 a.m. and he was like, you are insane. I can't believe you just did all that stuff. Like, you could have, like, you're an idiot. Like, motorcycles definitely create those moments. Yeah,
I once hit the rev limiter coming down a hill on one of those little bikes that are only knee height. They're only like knee height. They're like literally a meter long, 3 feet long. They're micro bikes or whatever.
Mini bikes, yeah.
Whatever. And I came down around the neighborhood and I came down this huge hill and I hit the limiter and I didn't no concept of whatever. My friends just put me on it. I was in shorts and flip-flops and came down the hill and then the light turned yellow and I'm like, yeah, I should probably stop, not realizing it didn't have a front brake. And so I locked up the rear and slid probably a quarter mile down this hill through the intersection. It was still yellow, but through this intersection sort of sideways, like whatever, pitched it sideways because I felt like I was on a bicycle and then just kind of came back in laughing, lit a cigarette and this is back in the day when I smoked it. Everyone was like, are you fucking dumb? That limiter is 92 miles an hour. And I was like, but it happened so fast and it was just down a little hill. Yeah, and a 35. No, I can't be trusted. This is why I don't go on motorcycles.
Uh-huh. How do you tell minute differences in car handling? I think you drive it at the limit.
Yeah. Honestly, you drive it normally. You can tell a lot of the handling comprises ride. Handling comprises a lot of stuff. How it reacts initially. Like, does this car want to go straight ahead? Does it want to track?
Pay attention.
Follow stuff?
So the answer is pay attention.
Music off. Sit properly in your seat. Put your hands at 9 and 3 with a very light touch on the wheel. Mm-hmm. And just pay attention to every little thing it does on a straightaway, on a bump, on a camber change, and then gradually build your speeds up until you're at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tenths. And then watch what it does. And then fuck with it. Yeah. My favorite thing to do on a press launch would be to have a pro driver in the passenger seat. And you get like 3 laps to evaluate a car. And I would say to them, I just turn around and they're like, I'm going to do all of this shit that you're not going to understand. And they're going to be like, you have to be smooth. You have to bullshit. I want to know, what does this car do
when provoked?
If I turn in and I'm understeering and I stab the pedal, or just drag brake and I get it sideways. And so I just try all of these different things to provoke every different response. And that takes a lot of concentration with no one in the car and no stereo, and you know,
pay attention. Whatever you need
controls.
to do to turn your consciousness up fully, to be fully aware of what's happening.
Exactly. So line of Coke and some ayahuasca or something. I'm kidding. E-golf replacement for Jason. If I knew the answer to that, I would have one. If there was an answer to that.
I mean, this person, when they asked the question, and I omitted this part, said besides the R3, the Rivian R3, which is coming.
The R3 would be amazing. The only other car that I'd consider, and I don't really, is a buddy of mine just bought a new Fiat 500e. And it's so fucking beautiful. Like it's genuinely gorgeous.
Yeah, they have styled everything about that car.
And I don't normally care for that kind of, but it's so beautiful that it's almost enough. And he's, by the way, leasing it for $41 a month.
That's part of the beauty of it.
That's part of the beauty. But I want a 4-door. I really would like a more
Does it
usable
have the
back seat.
repeating Fiat motif in the block letters
in the
anywhere on the
seat.
car? It does.
In the seat,
Because
yeah.
I've seen some in Europe that have that repeating block. It was on the convertible top, and the entire upholstery of the entire convertible top had that
It's just
repeating Fiat block.
And
I
also,
thought it
like
was
the
so
turn
cool.
signals have an Italian flag, and it's every detail. It's fucking wow. But I want a 4-door.
Yeah.
Perfect city car, but
Opinions on GLI. After having spoken so fondly and so extensively about the GTI, what do you think of the GLI?
GLI is mechanically identical. So Jetta GLI
Well,
is
it depends on what generation.
current.
Yes,
So,
but like the one
Mark
that was
7 was a PQ35, was an earlier car.
Yes, that's like the U.S. only Jetta.
Right, but the current Jetta is also U.S. only, or U.S. and China only. But the idea behind a Jetta GLI is that it is a Volkswagen GTI, so Golf GTI, with a longer wheelbase. The current GLI is mechanically identical to a Golf, but you can still get a manual with it. It's got huge wheelbase stretch, so the back seat is enormous with an enormous trunk, and it's cheaper than the GTI. So it's a hell of a value, and what you lose is the build quality of a Mark 7, right? It goes to like Mark 8 Plus in terms of badness of build quality. It's just crappy interior materials, but you get fundamentally the same driving experience. It's 95% as good. Thumbs up. If you live in a place where you could have a big sedan and you want a sedan, absolutely. It's a hell of a bargain. Okay. Opinions on classic minis.
Very entertaining. Big fan.
I love the way they look. Driven one with way too much power. Hated it.
Oh, you drove one that had an engine like a heart transplant, though.
Oh, yeah. And 3 heart transplants because it actually put 267 horsepower to the wheels or something. It was fucking terrifying.
No. You just need one with like a little bit of
I didn't
extra
like the
oomph.
driving position,
Oh,
the
it's
steering
fun.
angle. I
think
couldn't
it's fun.
fit. It just, I didn't.
I think they're fun.
They're so cute that they don't have to be fun, and maybe I would like it. What will become a hot commodity in the next 10 years? Fuck do I know? Crystal balls.
I think the GT350R. That's a car that has conceptually not been replaced.
Yeah.
Right. If there's any car where you think, oh, that they didn't really replace that with anything that did the same thing or that was meaningfully lost something, you have to look for, if you want to know what's going to be hot in 10 years, think about cars that they don't make anymore, and there's not like a replacement or something conceptually similar to that. And I think that's true of the GT350.
I think anything
350R.
naturally aspirated with a manual.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's going to be a very original answer, obviously, but it's true.
Okay. You're up.
Take on the NB.
Doesn't look as good as NA, doesn't drive as good as NA, worth less
But
than
it's still a
NA.
Miata.
Still Miata. Sure, great, fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like a cheap track car.
Worst of the bunch.
Yes, worst of the bunch, but it's still one of
Still
the best
Miata.
cars.
Yep, exactly. Best first daily Mercedes for someone in their 20s, prioritizing reliable/wagon.
If you want it to be reliable, so I would say the least expensive Mercedes to own as they get old are probably the 210 and 202. And then if you don't mind the air suspension, then the 211 E-Class. If the 202 didn't come as a wagon here. So yeah, I would say that you probably, if you're okay with air suspension, you get a 211, and if you don't want it, then you get a 210.
That works.
Anything with a single cam engine, because those engines are really simple and robust.
Mm-hmm.
The three valve cars, basically. What is unique about SoCal versus NorCal car culture?
Northern California is pretty varied because, I tend to be on the north side of the city. On the south side of the city, it's much more similar to Southern California. So the South
there's
Bay,
a lot more moneyed modern exotics.
Yeah, and where I am, we just don't have them. So what I love about Northern California, sort of North Bay, sort of Marin County, Sonoma car culture, is that you have a ton of variation from American muscle to classic pickup trucks to little European stuff to JDM stuff and everything in between, with no emphasis on I spent more than you.
Yes. It's like a sort of cars for the sake of cars as opposed to flexing.
Right. And, there will be a Bugatti at Cars and Coffee, but the Bugatti will be a 1930s Bugatti.
Yes.
And there will be, there's kind of all of this obscure shit that you just don't see.
There's a lot
anywhere.
of obscure stuff.
And some of it can be fucking double-digit millions of dollars, and then other stuff is just sort of a $500 shit heap that has a crowd around it. And I love that.
There's really heavy, like even now this is expanding into the vintage car world in SoCal. Like you go to SoCal events and there's this really heavy, like a lot of big cars that are old, that are expensive. And you're just like, wow, this is like very impressive. But it has that sort of LA conspicuous display of wealth thing, even among old cars and obviously among new cars as well.
It's LA is a lifestyle city, right? It's like I am in the lifestyle of classic car ownership, where I find here people just own the classic cars and they work on them themselves, and they're, I don't know, different. Will Alpha survive in the USA?
No.
Done.
Next question.
Okay, next question.
Cadillac CT5V Blackwing or RS6 as a one-car solution? That just depends on whether you need wagon and four-wheel drive.
Oh, and you can tolerate the idea of a turbocharged automatic. Yeah. I love that RS6. And we just saw one today. And I can't do my sound effect. There we go. Fluids came out. I think it's so beautiful, but I would have a Blackwing because manual.
Yeah.
Thoughts on cyclists?
Fuck them.
Fuck them.
No, I'm just kidding. When I'm a cyclist.
I was just going to say that. It's funny. We should have just timed it and said fuck them at the same time. I just rode today.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm a cyclist, then it's a double standard.
You know what I did as a cyclist today? I stayed on the bike path. I stayed the fuck away from cars because you know what hurts a lot? Getting hit by a car. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win. Trust me. I totaled the Camry with my bare body. The Camry was gone in a junkyard. I was in physical therapy for years. Not worth it. Stay the fuck away.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say try and maybe use the edge of the road rather than the entire lane. As a bicyclist is probably one of the...
Don't be an entitled...
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to say the word that I want to
say. Don't be entitled.
Don't be entitled.
Is Leno's Law going to affect the pre-1990s car market? No, because it's stuck in purgatory.
Well, it's in limbo right now doing some sort of weird review
I think it's
going
to get stuck.
Yeah. Whatever.
So I don't think it's going to happen. So
fingers crossed. No. Favorite non-Sacco Mercedes? Is there such a thing?
The W198, the 300 SL, the original 300 SL.
All right, sold.
And also the 500K and the 540K and the 600 and the 6.3 and the
6.9.
6.9. Yeah, 116 is actually my favorite S-Class. I know that there's like 3 people on the planet for whom that's true, but the 116 is my favorite S-Class. Okay. Our 928's the next big P car thing. That means Porsche.
Big for sure. Big
it's definitely big and heavy. Yeah. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Those cars have, while everything else has gone up in value in Porsche land, 928s, a few special 928s have. I just think that they don't experience the combination of how expensive they are to live with and that they experientially are so much less fizzy and alive than a 911. I think that, and less recognizable and iconic. I just don't think so. They're going to continue to be all transaxle Porsches, sort of forgotten.
I would have a 944 S2 10 times before I'd have a 928.
Really?
Yep.
I would have the 928.
You're weird. Are car enthusiasts moving to motorcycles due to nannying / price?
I don't think so. I think if anyone was going to be into motorcycles, they're already going to go there, and they already are there. Motorcycle people and car people certainly have overlap, but there's a lot of car people who would never motorcycle, and the opposite's true as well.
I think that could be different geographically, but I don't see that here. I see here people are moving to EVs, and from EVs they're moving to public transit in a city like San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. This person has an S2000 and is trading for something with back seats. Should they get an E90 M3 or a 996?
If you want back seats, you don't get a 996 because the 996 has...
Yeah, I was going to say whether the things you're putting in your back seats have legs or not, because if people in the back seats have legs, I would say the 996 is not the answer.
Yeah, same. Tips for driving in Germany as a Californian/American. Learn the rules.
Yeah, that's a very German answer.
I mean, but there are a lot of them, and people follow all of them. And to drive successfully in Germany and safely, you need to understand what the rules are. So do your homework.
Yeah, don't pass on the right.
Ever.
You
will be over all the way to the right all the time, no matter what.
Yes, unless you are overtaking. Yeah. You are as far right as you possibly can be.
And remember, when you are driving very quickly, keep your eyes up.
Yes,
because you will... Situational
awareness.
Well, you have to look far away. I mean, you're thinking, oh, I'll have time to stop, but we're just not used to the closing speeds that you have on Autobahns. So build up to the speed slowly, but learn those rules.
Yes, and adhere to them. Mm-hmm. What forbidden hot hatches would you want to drive?
All of them?
Yes.
I mean, do we have forbidden ones? All of the Renault
If we didn't get it, all the Renault Sport stuff. Clio. Well, I don't know if that counts as a hatch if it's mid-engine.
Yeah, that's yours.
Okay.
So it's a hatchback.
All right.
That's the stuff that I've driven.
Well, and the Megane RS and the Clio and the Clio Williams and, the Peugeot 205 GTI or the Rally I have driven, and that's really excellent.
I've driven a GTI, or 205 GTI. I've driven you said something else. Sure, all of them, but the ones, it's the Renault stuff.
Yeah.
I've Ford stuff I've experienced.
I don't have much Ford experience. I have no Ford experience, actually, other than the ones that were sold here.
Okay. What air-cooled 911 would you choose if they all had 3.6s?
I think this person is under the mistaken impression that the 3.6 is the best engine, and I don't think that that's really true. And that's why I wanted to include it as a question and answer, because I think that throwing a 3.6 in a 911 is not really the answer. My favorite 911s are the high-revving short-stroke ones, and so that's like a 2.9 that was built out of a 2.7, or you could do 3.2 short-stroke, but I would just say don't put a 3.6 in every 911, air-cooled 911. It's the wrong answer. It destroys the character of a 70s car to have a modern fuel-injected engine, in my opinion.
Okay.
But a lot of people mix and match pieces and will do whatever to whatever. Why does the U.S. only get high-trim cars and engines? Like, we don't get the 320 and the 318 anymore and this sort of stripper models.
The U.S. is a fascinating market, and I think the fundamental of it is we are spoiled rotten, and there's no bigger reminder of this than we'll be fighting about something, and some of the comments are like, you guys have no idea how lucky you have it. The biggest engine that I could afford was a 0.0003 liter, one cylinder, blah, 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 blah. We are spoiled rotten in this country, and we sort of have an expectation that everyone deserves a V8. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that comes from reasonable fuel prices.
Fuel used to be very cheap here.
It still is compared to around the world, and people, Americans.
When fuel was like $4 or $5 a gallon in Europe, it was $1 a gallon here. It's literally a quarter of the price.
I mean, it's still. Where it's expensive here on the West Coast, but back east, it's in the twos.
Yeah, it's under $3 a gallon. That's
and
true.
So I think we have cheap fuel, and Americans as a whole, and please don't anyone get offended. We were all taught, if you try, even if you don't succeed, you deserve successes. And so I think everyone is like, I deserve a full-size luxury car with a V8, 400 horsepower, and an automatic. Oh, heated and cooled seats. Oh, and this and that.
Heated steering wheel.
Heated steering wheel. And no one is willing to compromise. I mean, my favorite thing is to go to Germany and see 6 guys pile into a Polo on the way to something. And the Americans are like, we can't fit. We need we need a third row to get, one kid in the back seat because God forbid anyone should have to actually scrunch themselves. It's just absurd. We're just gluttons.
Space is very abundant here, and I think that's reflected. Our built environment is large. And also, fuel was cheap enough that you would only want to sell, especially for premium brands, the most expensive ones, the biggest engined ones, and so they've realized that Americans were willing to pay for it, and they would sell only those,
especially
here.
for imported luxury brands.
Yes.
And the other thing is cars here are cheaper than they are in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So typically you'd look at price parity between USD and GBP. So if a car was £30,000 in the UK, it would be $30,000 here, and so they're going to sell the high level stuff because the other stuff, the base stuff, they would just lose. The European car companies selling stuff here would lose money on them. So that's another part of it. But we're willing to pay it because we're spoiled. If you had to, is this me or you?
Yes, go for it.
If you had to race each other using any of the cars you own, which are you choosing and who would win?
On a road? Or is this paved?
Paved. I mean, it's a paved road.
I was going to say my dirt car, because I can go over anything.
Oh, yeah, no. I would assume this is a paved road, and this could be either a straight line drag race or like a twisty back road race.
You would have to be in the 850 CSI.
I could also do Beatrice, because I don't care. I mean, it's not that I don't care, but like Beatrice isn't going to scrape. The CSI was my fastest car in a straight line. But we all know the fastest car in the world is a rental car, and the second fastest car is a salvage title E30 with race suspension on it. So
and no paint.
Beatrice. And so what's yours? What are you taking?
Oh, I don't know. I guess the GTI, because it's cheap. It's basically free.
So our shit box is
quick.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. We both choose a shit box. Always choose a shit box. That's the lesson. Okay.
Do you own model cars? If yes, which one? Oh, too numerous to count. I have dozens of them.
I have five of them. I have cars that are the models of my own cars.
Yeah.
And they're just sort of subtly put on my mantle. I don't want my house to turn into a garage. So
I have a display case.
Every time I want a car, I buy the real fucking thing. It's the real problem. Order.
Okay. Thoughts on collectors paying a premium price for certain colors? I mean, a car, we often talk about how a car is an extension of yourself and it's an expression of your viewpoint. And if it's this thing that's really important emotionally to you, you want to get exactly the one you want that looks exactly the way you want it to and that stands out as much as possible. So I think it makes perfect sense. I used to be puzzled by certain cars not like that nobody wanted. Like I went back and read an article from 20 years ago when they were like, oh yeah, the Ruby Stone 964 RSs, we can't sell them because they're too loud. And now everyone's like, oh my God, it's Ruby Stone, and they freak out and they were willing to pay. I mean, I think that there's a sort of mainstreaming of that stuff and like people all having the same damn car basically when it comes to Porsche 911 land, and so you have to stand out on the basis of color. Sure, that's a skeptical reading of it, but you should have the car you want that makes you feel the way you want, and if it costs more money to do it and you can afford it, then there you go.
Have at it. I don't typally notice color. So I will drive a car for a
Amandine
week.
Red 190 Cosworth, you would
shit myself over.
Yeah.
I mean, but I was gonna say, so the Beat, my requirements for Honda Beat was zebra interior. I did not care about the exterior color. I thought please no silver, because I have 70% of my cars are silver or smoke silver or some variant thereof. So I wanted with a white one. I really don't care often, but the CSI, I bought that specific one because of the blue with blue interior. Mm-hmm. So it's even for someone like me.
Even Jason Cammisa.
Yeah, but although interior is more important because part of that car was the blue and the two-tone blue interior. My Cosworth I would not have without
the plaid.
I wanted it smoke silver because I had the only other color available with Auschwitz on my previous one. So I would have gone either way, but I preferred smoke silver, but I had to have the plaid cloth. So I think I'm more of an interior color person. But yeah, I don't blame you. Any specific car in which you would prefer a diesel engine over gasoline?
I'm very curious about L322 Range Rovers with the big V8 diesel. I think in that kind of vehicle, it could be kind of cool to just have all that massive torque.
I mean, my immediate response to that was Cayenne. Cayenne was
so
one
we both went to SUVs.
Right. The real answer is any daily driver where the engine isn't the star. I'd prefer a diesel because I recommend a diesel if we really had too many of them because they're a match for U.S. driving style better. But a Cayenne is
all-road diesel. V6 diesel
Sure.
to 3.0.
But I think the Cayenne is a perfect example of a car that's actually better with a diesel because the gas engines just were not spectacular and they were the wrong fit. There's nothing wrong with them, but they were wrong fit for a car. And when you got a Cayenne diesel, it rode well at like 16-inch wheels. I don't remember how they're big sidewalls. It rode well. So yeah.
Best M-Light BMW. So this is like the ZHP 335IS, the 535IS.
Let's do it on the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
ZHP, yeah.
All right, we're done. What's the furthest you'd have to go back in time to take each of your fastest cars and win first overall at the 24 Hours of Le Mans?
So my fastest car is the 911. So that's probably the 1960s. Probably the late 50s. Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking you'd have to go back to the days of the horse-drawn buggy. They were still pretty fast in the 50s, but I guess my 850 would probably be similar. 5 seconds to 60 does it. It's limited to 150 though. That without a limiter at 175, that would be, if I could delimit that car.
I think the braking, you'd make it up. Do you have tires too? You'd have the modern tires. That would really... Braking performance, right? Rejecting heat from braking was a big deal.
Yeah. Okay.
What is the weight limit of a true driver's car?
There is none.
Yeah, that wasn't always true, but I think it is true now. Thank you, Lucid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking, I'm not allowed to talk about this until next week, but Corvette ZR1 could be a driver's car. I mean, to me, a driver's car has got to be a manual, but, we used to think it was 2,500 pounds and then it was 3,000 and it's 3,500. I think it's really about how well the car's tuned rather than the
and a lot of this has to do with modern technology and magnetorheological dampers and tire technology.
Yeah, go drive a 3,600 pound Ferrari 296. I will say, despite the fact that it's a hybrid twin turbo automatic car, it is a true driver's car. And there is no real limit. Mm-hmm. Favorite racetracks you've both driven and favorite races you've attended or participated in?
This is lemons for you?
Easy for me. I mean, the races I've attended, the only ones that I have that participated in were lemons races, and 100%. I mean, that is the right way to race.
Yeah. I have done lemons and I've done SCCA. I liked lemons more. It was more hilarious.
Yeah.
SCCA is more serious. I'm not a serious race car driver, and so to be in the lemons environment was more hilarious.
Favorite racetracks I've driven? That would be Grattan Raceway in Western Michigan. It's stupid. It's just dumb. And again, I'm not a serious. I would not want to race there, but to do a track day where there's a jump that basically your car's airborne past pit out is just the stupidest thing. Yeah.
The Ridge in Washington I quite enjoy. Attended would be Goodwood for sure.
Oh yeah. Mid Ohio is amazing. Sonoma's incredible. Laguna's good. But no.
Okay. Hear me out. Cadillac, we've talked about this. Cadillac should build a Grand Sport version of the CT5V Blackwing with an NA V8 manual, shorter gearing in 1 through 5 and a tall 6th. Why won't they do that given the popularity of the 5 Blackwing?
You say it's popular. I say it's not.
Yeah.
Remember that everything that a car company has to do, has to develop and then homologate and certify, needs to pay for that development process. And when you start to look at low volume cars, like something like a Blackwing, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars in amortized production and homologation costs. It wouldn't be possible. The car would be $100,000 more than it should be just to pay for its own development. So,
yeah, and they had to go for the big horsepower, supercharged 700 horsepower one because that was possible, and that was the version that would sell the best because people buy on the basis of numbers that are printed and 700 horsepower. You got to get it.
Yep. And also, I love the idea of a naturally aspirated V8, but the shorter gearing winds up in CO2 / fuel economy problems. I mean, it's that cascading
regulatory.
Yep. You skipped one, which is a Golf is the best all-rounder. Change my mind. No, I'm not changing your mind. You've stated a
axiom.
It's correct. Okay, next.
What has your combined century-long experience been on the underappreciated first-generation Audi R8, particularly gated V10 examples? My understanding is the V8 is actually better to drive, although I've never driven a V10.
V10s are, the engine is amazing in terms of noise. I like the V8's response far better. The V8 gated R8, other than some limit understeer and dead steering is the bigger issue, is magic. That's a really great car to drive. Not fun, not as talkative or communicative or interesting as a 997. But given the way it looks and the way that engine sounds and responds, it's a fabulous experience. So I much prefer the R8 gated 6-speed V8 to any of the other variants. The V10s are impossible to control. They like to swap ends. And so that sucks some of the fun out of it. And from inside the car, they sound a little bit better, but they're much lazier to respond. Give me a V8.
Yeah, the V8 is a naturally aspirated, high revving thing. It's all of it really highlights how far cars have fallen in the last couple decades, I guess 15 years even, when you drive that. I drove one recently and I was really surprised by how it felt kind of special, especially the engine.
Do Jason's atrocities against Subaru Outbacks only apply to new ones, or do older enthusiast-owned ones get a pass? The Subaru slander hurts my feelings sometimes, but I understand. Okay, the Subaru slander is us having fun. Please, no one get offended by that. Also, you didn't design your car, so you shouldn't hate me for pointing out its flaws. No, this is very much a regional thing. I think we've realized it's a real thing in Northern California. Where we live, every fucking time I'm held up by someone, there's a Subaru in front of the clump.
It's an Outback.
It's an Outback or a Forester or it's a Crosstrek or whatever. There's always a fucking Subaru around, but it is definitely a regional thing. My hatred for those cars is actually my hatred for the people who choose to buy them.
Oh, so you actually hate the person who's written in, not actually their car.
I hate all people. Remember it's a regional thing, but yeah, enthusiasts own anything gets a pass. Like, I definitely give a mental thumbs up to an STI if I see it. And by the way, any BRZ gets a thumbs up from me, except an automatic one, unless it's got handicap plates on it because I have no left leg. But yeah, no, really, I mean, this is mostly us joking, so please don't get your feelings hurt. But yeah, enthusiast owned anything. An enthusiast owned Camry gets my thumbs up.
I feel like the proportion of Subarus that are enthusiast cars out there has gone down compared to 20 years ago. It was much more of like a sort of quirky performance all-wheel drive rally derivative sort of solution 20 years ago in the peak or in the beginning of the STI first arriving in the United States. And now I feel like the majority of people who own those cars are boomers who have legacy Outbacks or young people who are, I'm adventurous, I need an all-wheel drive car to go to Tahoe 3 times a year and 4-wheel drive because my active lifestyle requires it for transporting granola or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's just not, they're not enthusiasts' choices in the showroom anymore.
No, nothing with a CVT will ever, here's a controversial statement, nothing with a CVT has ever been an enthusiast choice. Period. There you have it. How can Mitsubishi be transformed to become a cool brand again?
Focus on air conditioners. Next.
I see what you did, because cool and air conditioners, is that why?
Well, and also their automotive offerings are so beyond help that they should just discontinue them.
Make cool cars. It's that simple. Make cool cars and you can be a cool brand.
Yep. We talked about this already. This is another European hatchback question. We'll skip past that. Do you think any other car companies might adopt GMA T50's clutched E-Pass system that deactivates power steering above a certain speed? I hope we get a 911 with it one day. I hope that too. Seems like a very good idea. I've experienced that system. Actually, I think the first time I ever experienced a system like that was in a bunch of old cars. Because like the Ferrari Daytona has famously heavy steering, and they would do the same exact thing where it deactivates at 25 miles an hour, and you can retrofit it into all manner of vintage cars.
Is it clutched though, so it fully flywheels and deactivates, or is it constantly connected?
I don't know. I've never looked at the guts of one, but it feels like an unassisted car once the system disengages above a certain speed. It's indistinguishable at speed.
I would absolutely love for 911 to get it.
And you don't change the hardware.
Right.
Like you don't change the steering column.
This just sits on top of the steering column. Yeah. The problem is if it doesn't actually physically declutch, you still have the inertial mass of the motor absorbing steering feel. And so I don't know. I hope that we get a 911 with it too. I suspect the technology loving Germans who no longer love driving will say, well, then we cannot lane keep assist. And it just won't happen. But I wish it would.
Mm-hmm.
So where do each of you draw the line on modifying your vehicles? After listening to a few automotive podcasts, I've noticed some of them are against modifying cars at all, but we know each of you have made some tasteful changes to your cars. I've made some distasteful changes to my cars.
And then undone them subsequently.
Some, not others. Some cars I don't feel the need to modify. The Mercedes, for example, my Cosworth 2.316, I have not modified anything of it. I put an aux audio in because I feel like that car came out of the factory perfect or near it, with its own clear identity that nothing stood out. All of my other cars that I've modified have been modified to be a plus version of themselves.
Yes, you maintain the ethos of the original car, and this is one of the things. There were some questions in here which we may get to on resto mods, and I think the fundamental question is: are you preserving the original ethos of the car? Or are you trying to turn it into something that's not? There's no reason to slam a 7 Series or an S Class and make it ride like shit. You're basically fundamentally removing one of the best parts of the car for what?
Yeah. I mean, I get the question all the time, why no M50 in my 325i wagon, right? So I could put a 24 valve straight six in the E30, and it all comes down to, if I get into an M50 swapped E30, the second I hear the starter, I'm confused because E30s sound a certain way. M20s have a very distinct startup sound. It's this and that goes away when you have a different engine. And the M50, the two twin cam motors make amazing noises, but it's a completely different sound. And I want my E30 to feel like my E30. And if anyone's listening from Metric Mechanic, a company, I think Minnesota or something, they make like 3.1 liter M20s with 200 and something horsepower. That's what I want. I want more of, I want the car to look and feel no different, but be more of itself. Yes,
it's the same car turned up to 12 or 14
tenths. Or undo what the product planners or the legislators required at the time, like the exhaust on the 850 CSI, right? Somebody decided that a V12 should be silent. Well, I decided they were fucking wrong, and I unfucked it. Yeah. But I'm not changing the character of the car.
Okay.
How come you guys don't do track days as much anymore?
How do you know how much track days I do?
How do you know how much track days I do? I don't have time, but that's... If you do,
yeah, but you also drive on track a lot for work.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yes,
I find myself very out of practice when I go to do like consecutive laps. I'm like, oh, I forgot this is a different talent. Rather than Anthony Esposito screaming on the radio. All right, come around, turn 3, crossed up sideways, stop, turn around, and come back the other way. Which is something you don't typically do on track days unless you want to get yourself kicked out.
Counter current flow. Yep. What are your favorite Japanese sports cars? Were you guys ever into the Japanese tuner scene? What were your ideal New York car? I'm going to get another one with the New York, so we're not going to do that part.
The ideal New York City car is a bus ticket out of there. Mm-hmm. Were you ever into the Japanese tuner scene? No.
No, I wasn't. I was exposed to it peripherally, and now I've studied it sort of retrospectively as relates specifically to like some of the more expensive cars like Skyline GTRs and NSXs.
I feel
favorite Japanese sports cars.
Japanese sports car is... Yes, but that's the exception because the remainder of them are contradictions in terms. Japanese car companies tend to prioritize an ease of control and a fundamental goodness, and I feel like that's the opposite of what I want in a sports car. So yeah, Honda S800.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you had driven an S800 and what your impression of it was.
I love it. It's fun. But like an S2000 is a perfect example of a Japanese sports car that is a contradiction in and of itself. It doesn't do any of the things I want from a sports car. NSX is the perfect example.
Yeah, so
it's
I was going to say
so
not the
good
NSX.
That it bores me to tears.
Yeah.
So what about
you?
So
they lack spiciness. I was going to say Toyota 2000 GT.
2000 GT is magic until you drive a Z. Z.
Yeah.
All right. My favorite Japanese sports car of all time is a
early Z 240Z. Yeah. I like the Hakko also.
Hakko's fun. Not a sports car, but I like it. Yeah. If you were given the keys to the Acura brand, what steps would you take to bring it back to the glory days of 90s and early 2000s? First step. Fire everyone, including the design team.
Yeah.
Second step, make good cars. Differentiate yourself from the Hondas upon which you're based, and not just by like making it look luxury and lifestyle and fucking it up with cheap plastics that are supposed to look expensive. When the interior of the Civic looks and feels more expensive than the interior of the Acura, you know that everyone needs to be fired.
Easy.
Done. Yeah. Step 1, fire everyone. Start over. All right.
Which Toyota Camry generation is the best? This is the 1992.
It's kind of, I think it's the best looking. Current Camry is amazing.
Is it?
Every generation of Camry has been amazing. And it's something that a lot of automotive journalists don't want to admit. And I'm sorry to say, if you run into an automotive journalist who's like, I hate Camrys, well, they're just not doing their job. Objectively, the cars are amazing.
And they do exactly what the customers want them
Exactly
to do.
what the customers want them to do. Reliably for 300 million miles.
Mm-hmm. What's coming up soon on Haggerty? I want more drag race replays and lap battles.
You're going to see more drag race replays. So the way we did the schedule this year, Inside Baseball, we decided to do a bunch of revelations first, so that we could sit out the winter, because filming on location when it's 400 below zero with 90 mile an hour winds or a billion degrees are both miserable. So we thought winter and summer we'll try to buy us in here in the studio to do revelations, and spring and fall will be out on the road. So we've just done a bunch of Ultimate Drag Race replays and an Icons. Lap Battle we're working on. Lap Battle was a huge lift. There's a lot of graphics in that show, and it was a lot to do. The biggest problem was getting the car companies on board, because they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose. And it doesn't matter how many times we tell them that, this is about describing what happens. By the way, we can always go get a lap time, but you give it to Lightning Lap for Car and Driver, but even Car and Driver folks have told me they have a hard time getting cars because all the car companies
don't want their cars to be
they're
slower.
just filled with paper pushers who just want to protect their fucking jobs, and they don't want to take any risk, which sucks. So there would be far more interesting content, but I can't do something like a lap battle with a privately owned car. It's too much wear on the car. We'd be buying somebody brakes and tires, and it's too much of a risk. But yep, more stuff coming. What is the best non-M BMW powertrain for the first BMW purchase, except B58? I'm talking about 320i, 330, 330e, 335i, 540e. Okay. For
performance, reliability, cost.
Yeah. M54, last of the naturally aspirated simple motors.
So this was used in the 530i and the 330i, E46 and E39. Mm-hmm.
The early E90s, the naturally aspirated E90 stuff.
So like the 330i.
They're fine also. But no V8. I would not accept any BMW V8 under any circumstance. I would also not accept any BMW 4-cylinder. So it would have to be a straight 6. And I feel like M54 and N55 are, and N54. Yeah. They're for M54 and N54. There you go. Okay.
What is one of the biggest giveaways when you see a modified car and talk to the owner that they have no idea that why they did what they did? Especially in social media age when builds can often be for I don't even have to talk to them.
You don't talk to them. You just
look at the car.
Well, is it slammed to the ground?
Yeah. If it's too low or if the wheels are too big. If the wheels are pointlessly large, those things usually go together.
Yeah. If it's stanced or cambered or whatever else. Do you think with the tariffs and all that nonsense that we will see less new car buyers and more people considering used, thus pumping the used car market up and creating used car scarcity?
Yes.
Yes. It's simple supply and demand. Okay.
Why do you guys like the Miata over the S2000?
Because it's fun to drive and the S2000 isn't.
Mm-hmm. What if somebody thinks the S2000 is fun to drive?
They don't have perspective. So that's a little harsh, but it's also true. The S2000 is beautiful. It's fantastically overweight, but it's beautiful. It has a terrible driving position. Wretched, I would go so far as to say. It has terrible steering. It has poorly, the AP1 anyway, has poorly tuned suspension that loves to snap sideways with no warning. And because it has first gen E-Pass, you don't feel the sideways. You don't feel the yaw. And so plus the driving position doesn't help. People just spin them all the time. And then they're on top of that, it's geared so long that you at speed. Look at any trip computer. I've said this before. And any car, the average speed any car goes is like 26 miles an hour. Well, under 28 or 30 miles an hour, you're out of VTEC in first gear, because first gear gets you to about 270 miles an hour. So really, really long first gear. And so the speeds that matter the most to most cars in most circumstances are 0 to 25 or 30. And it's a dog there. And it's the only 4-cylinder Honda engine that doesn't sound good. That's maybe a little bit, all of this is maybe a little bit harsh, but so you get into an S2000 and the control weighting is not good. The steering feedback is not good. The gearing is too long and the engine doesn't sound right. Then you get into a Miata and you are sitting perfectly in the car. It weighs, well, the S2000 weighs almost 50% more than the Miata. The shifter's even better in the Miata. The engine is really zippy and revvy and responsive. And the car wants to turn and it wants to just play. One is playful and the other one is numb.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Okay. What's your favorite sandwich? Why is that bold?
I don't know. Somebody asked the question. What's your favorite?
Why did you bold it?
A pastrami Reuben. Binny's Brooklyn Reuben from Zingerman's Deli in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's a pastrami Reuben. It's fucking out of this world.
Okay.
What about you?
I don't know. Whatever one I'm currently eating. Okay. The one that is inside of my stomach at this moment. What are your guys' thoughts on the 500 Abarth? Oh, look at that. There it is. Isn't it cute?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's just... I would too. It has just all, I mean, objectively not good. Like the shifter's not good and you feel like you're sitting kind of up high and all that stuff, but it just has so much charm and personality and character and it's so fun and it makes you smile and it just, there's a sense of occasion to it, even though it's like a cheap sort of disposable car that makes it feel just interesting.
It is one of the very few modern cars, and it's not old now, but I mean, it's one of the very few modern cars that has charm. Yeah. And if you ever want to know what people are talking about when they're talking about personality, that is the perfect car to send someone to go drive. Just drive it. Because like you said, objectively, it's not particularly good. Don't crash in one. I mean, the terrible crash ratings. They don't do anything particularly well, except put a smile on your face. Yeah. The noises that it makes, just the way it makes you feel there. It is the spiritual successor to it's an Italian Mark II GTI is what it really feels like. And they're spectacular for that, for the smile factor. How rusty is the Rover? As a Canadian enthusiast, I'd love to know. Surprisingly unrusty. Yes. I would say that car's worst rust spots are a couple of rust-colored stains in the paint at the base of the windshield. Yeah, there's no rust underneath.
I think pulling the windscreen out would be illuminating, probably, but don't
also
do it.
Suicidal.
Yes.
Suicide mission. No structural rust whatsoever.
No bubbling visible really anywhere.
No, and actually, you guys might learn at some point that I've done some
modifications.
Some modifications were not what I was talking about. The Rover currently doesn't
That's what I meant.
Yes. The Rover currently does not have an engine in it. Dun, dun, dun. And I was very happy to see that when we pulled the motor out, the engine compartment has like some rust color staining from like where the battery lives. No, nothing. Spectacular. Yeah. I genuinely, and by the way, pulling the engine, two exhaust studs broke, and you'd fully expect that. But a 45-year-old car that lived in Canada its whole life to not break a single
Edmonton.
bolt.
Yeah.
Not one. Amazing.
BMW E34 versus E39 comparison.
I have to say this to shit on my friend who likes his E34. There is no comparison.
Okay, next question.
Nah, that's cheap. We can't do that.
I like the E34.
I do too. I like the E39 is a better car. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little bit cost cut in some of the interior stuff, but it doesn't feel
E34 door panels always fall off.
Yeah, nothing falls off of E39s.
Yeah,
they're E39's probably the
impressive compared to E36s.
Well, they figured out how to make non-biodegradable materials. Mm-hmm. That was all an eco push. E39 is the high water mark for BMW. I think a 6-cylinder E39.
E38 for me personally.
It's it's the same car.
I know.
So yeah,
but I like the E38.
Sure,
more.
Either way, and E34 is lovely, but no contest.
Mm-hmm. M5 notwithstanding, because then you get the S38.
Yeah, I'd probably take an E34. When you were young, we're still young. Since you two are young and are just now getting into cars, do you ever worry that you won't, damn it, I have to do this. When you were young and just getting in cars, did you ever worry you wouldn't get to experience enough of them? I'm a young enthusiast in Switzerland, and between the increasingly strict regulations and higher costs, it feels like I just can't live out the car dream to the extent I'd like to. Unless you're wealthy or in the industry, it feels out of reach. In my position, what would you do and how far would you go to make that dream happen?
The reality is that cars are expensive and getting to experience them is expensive. And I hate the fact that the thing that most interests me and that I most desire to do happens to be something that's very expensive. It would be much easier to be into knitting, for example, or something like that. I assume knitting is less expensive than cars. I've never knit before, but my assumption is it costs less than cars.
So.
But I hate that the thing that most excites me is so expensive. But I guess at least I'm not into yachts.
I would say this is something that I wasn't worried about when I was young, but I did put myself in places where I was allowed the opportunity to experience cars that I would never be able to afford. The first really expensive car that I drove was a 750 IL, and it was an 88 750 IL that I drove in 94, and that was just out of the realm of possibilities of what I could ever afford. So my advice is be patient. Right, because the opportunities do come with time, but you can't just
sit there. You have to do something.
Well, no, right. You have to position yourself. Right.
Yes.
Switzerland is a wonderful country. It's a beautiful country, and
there's also a lot of car content in Switzerland.
There's a huge amount of car, but Switzerland especially is very wealthy in the car. Switzerland's car community,
and Swiss cars are expensive.
Yeah, I would place if it's that
go
important.
buy cars in Italy.
Well, this is I moved to California, which was the furthest place in the United States away from all of the people that I loved and all the places that I knew, and it was because of my cars. I just couldn't do the Midwest anymore. I couldn't do the roads. I couldn't do especially once I was in Michigan. I just didn't. That was not a match. The roads plus my cars. Pittsburgh was a wonderful place to live. Great roads and whatnot, but the climate just wasn't conducive to the cars, and the cars that were in the car community there weren't a match for me. So I picked up and moved 5,000 kilometers away to a place that is a parking spot where. Put it this way. When I left Motor Trend, I had a moment of panic, and I spent the night like freaking out, like, oh my God, you have no fucking job. Like, what are you doing? Whatever. And I did the math, and for the price that I would be able to fire sale my house for, I could go back into Western Pennsylvania and buy my old house and the other 6 houses on the street and demolish them all and build a new house with a garage and have huge amounts of money left over. So I moved to a place that is you couldn't buy a parking spot in San Francisco for what my gorgeous little 1,100 square foot house was worth in sort of outside of Pittsburgh. And I did that for my car. So how far would you go to make that dream happen? There you have it. 3,000 miles away and 10 to 20x the cost of living. That's how far I would go.
So how does this person live out the car dream to the extent that they would like to?
Move. Go.
It's a very weird notion for a Swiss person.
I know, but it's a weird notion for an East Coast person to wind up on the West Coast too. I mean, this place is full of people like you.
Ugh.
Right? Nice,
yes.
friendly, well-mannered people who don't talk like this. This is... Yeah, that's how far. I mean, I moved away from my sister and her children.
You could move to Spain. You could move to Spain where things are very cheap comparatively. I'm talking for this person in Switzerland.
There's no car community in Spain, is there?
I bet there is.
I've not seen
sure there is.
I mean, there is, but I've not seen any.
Italy. Then Italy is a lot less expensive. It's not that far away, and things are a lot less expensive than Switzerland.
And you're dealing with the chaos, right? You're dealing with
bureaucracy.
Italy, but we're certainly dealing with that in California. You choose. It all depends on how important that really is to you. I'm not saying move to California, but for me that was the right choice because this is the intersection of
climate,
weather, climate, roads, and car culture that just worked for me. So,
Oh, so this is a question again. What do you think about people who buy low and mid horsepower lightweight cars meant for twisties but live in Texas or New Mexico and never take them out? Well, that's a value.
Hey. Many people have many different cars for many different reasons. We have friends, you and I both know this, this couple that have an Exige in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck are you doing with an Exige in on flat, straight roads, whatever. Takes all sorts. No problem. Right. Whatever. People buy cars for different reasons. Some because of the way they look, some because of the way they sound. If it
Some
works
for the one corner that they have. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I don't understand it either. But again, I was willing to uproot myself and move 3,000 miles away to find roads that match. Do you think that the generation will fondly and passionately look back on the current crop? Did I miss one? You're looking at me.
What page are you on?
I don't know. 250 million doesn't say. Yeah, this was the next. Either way, do you think that? Oh, I lost it now. The current generation will fondly and passionately look back on the current crop of mostly numb, synthetic, screen-packed vehicle offerings, let's say from 2020 onward, in the same way we all do for cars of our youth.
It depends what happens in the future. If they become more insular and more boring and more lame, then yes. If they don't, then no. But I could see cars continually getting more. I mean, when fuel-injected cars came out in the 1980s and plastic started being used, everyone was like, these cars aren't real cars. They're just made of plastic and they have electronics and computers in them. Like, there's always some group of people. This is like people saying, nobody wants to work anymore. I saw this meme from the other day that was literally went back to the 1920s, and there was like a newspaper clipping from every decade since the 1920s saying people don't want to work anymore.
That's funny.
Right? There's just always this
because
mentality.
No one ever wants to work. That's why.
Yes, but anymore, it's that's the mistake. The mistaken part, which is that nobody ever wanted to work in the first place. Point is that cars continue to get more insular, to get more plasticky, to get more synthetic, to get more synthesized and less like real. I'm sure that in the 1960s when cars had chokes and stuff and electric starters, people were like, you don't even have to crank your own car to start it anymore. These cars aren't real
Anyone
cars.
can start that.
Yeah, so I think that this continually happens and that the march of progress will make cars more, like they'll be like, wow, you used to have to drive that car. It's a car you drive yourself. And I could see that happening with cars of today.
Totally.
In decades
I
from
could
now.
also see a little bit of the screen-based stuff being a turnoff, right? We look back at CRT screens in the 1980s cars as a novelty, as a fun novelty. Like we would all gravitate to an Oldsmobile Trofeo with a screen, a green screen in it. But at the end of the day, I don't look back on, I don't long for anything but the form factor of an iPhone 5 or 3.
Yeah.
Right. They were small and little, but I don't give a shit about it because at the end of the day, it's a screen and the software defines what's on it. And so I think we have made a swap with where cars have gone to the virtual and it's just a matter of what's on the screen. And I've seen now so many people with early iDrive cars or whatever else replacing the screen with an aftermarket Android thing and whatever. And just to make it functional. So it could be that we're at the point right now, 2020-ish, where now they just become a lost generation. I think most of what's on the road right now will be a lost generation of cars because they're just not that good.
Well, yeah, and the question to ask also is how many cars that are currently on sale do you, dear reader, lust after?
Right. And I suspect no matter what your age, it's probably not that many.
Yeah.
Not too many kids right now are like, Mom, I just saw a new Nissan Rogue. In the same way that maybe we did when we saw Infiniti FX for the first time, right?
I mean, when the FX came out, it was hot.
Amazing. Are we in the Golden Gate Bridge one?
Yes.
Is this me or whatever? If Jason Cammisa and Derek Tam-Scott were told to show up at the Golden Gate Bridge with a car that cost under $20,000 and all you know is that you'd be driving all day for a week but didn't know where you're going, what cars would you each show up in?
Probably a Mark 7 GTI.
I had to show up in my Scirocco.
Really?
100%. That's my adventure. That's my everywhere car. Look, if somebody thinks I'm taking it off road, the answer is fuck you. No, I'm not destroying it, but I'll go anywhere in that car.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to do that in a car, I would do it in a 911.
You'd be showing up in your own 911, right?
Probably, yeah.
If it was one of your own cars, if I had to show up in somebody else's modern, and who knows, but yeah.
What were your first impressions of Throttle House?
Throttle House. My first impression was a giggle when it said car reviews evolved, and I watched the first episode, laughed my ass off at whatever stupid is a compliment, by the way, whatever stupid skit that they did, and then I was like, wait a second, car reviews evolved. They're literally copying our Ignition series from Motor Trend. Like the shots were knockoffs of our shots. Like this is not car reviews evolved. This is head-to-head / Ignition with two really funny guys doing it. who needed a lot more experience and training and perspective. But they made me laugh. And so it was, that was my first impression. And then we all became friends.
Jason, what manufacturer has been most upset about a car review?
It's two manufacturers with the same PR head. A guy named Mo Makuzzi, definitely not Joe Jacuzzi, who pinned me up against a car at an auto show because I gave in a 5-car, 500 horsepower sports sedan Comparo. The Audi RS7 was 1 point behind the BMW M5 Comp, and I gave it second place. And he pinned me up against that car and said, "We're not a second place car company." And I was like, "Then stop making second place cars, motherfucker. Also get off me." At which point his staff pulled him off of me, and we went in the back room and had a screaming match. And I'm like, "You stupid fuck. I literally just gave fifth dead fucking last to a Porsche Panamera." And I was like, I walked over and explained to them, and they're really up. Like, they were like, "Oh fuck, why?" And I'm like, "Well, it was the slowest. It was this, and this, and it cost twice as much as everything else. It just was kind of outdone." And then they're like, "Oh, yeah, it is last year. Okay, we understand." They were upset, but they were, "Thanks for the heads up. We'll tell our bosses," and whatever else. And then this guy pushes me up against the car. Same guy. Somebody wrote a headline for my initial C8 review, good C8 Corvette, when I wrote good, not, I wrote the article, and the headline on roadandtrack.com was 2017 Corvette C8, good, not great. Apparently he threw something at one of the PR people and then banned me from all GM press loans for 4.5 years. Because I didn't even write the headline. I called the car good. So, he's no longer in this business. I hope he's not on this planet Earth. Do you know the type of car the horn is from in the Carmudgeon Show intro?
No.
We could ask our good buddy Luca to figure out where he got that from, but no idea.
I bet it's not a real, I don't know. Maybe it is.
What is the socks and sandals equivalent of car configurations? Like the type of accessories / color combos that instantly make the car look tacky. Something that just screams that the owner has no taste and style.
I'd say like all black everything.
What? All black? Oh, you mean like black wheels?
Black wheels and black dark tint and, stupid aftermarket shit.
I have to say Rosso of Corso. So
On a
Rosso
Ferrari.
Corso Ferrari, just a red Ferrari.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not that there's no taste. Come on, you can do better than that.
Yeah. But
Just
the problem
screams
is that these
first
people have
Ferrari.
always screams first Ferrari. I was just going to say, if it's someone who's always wanted a Ferrari and they're going to buy their first Ferrari, it's going to be red. I was absolutely mind blown when I started getting into selling more modern cars instead of old ones, because in old Ferrari land, you don't want a red car. You want a blue one, or you want a silver one with a red interior, or something elegant and tasteful and original and unique. And then I was like, oh God, this 458's red. And the guy who would sold new Ferraris forever and ever, he was like, oh no, red's good. Red's easy to sell. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that blew my mind.
When I told one of the people who work in Maranello at Ferrari HQ that I bought a GT4, I sent the picture of the car, and the response came back, "Thank fuck it's not red." It always made me laugh. I printed that email and put it in the car's file. Thank fuck it's not red. Are you in any way fans of Swedish bricks? Could the 200, 700, 900 ever get an Icons episode? Sincerely, a long-term watcher and 940 Turbo 5-speed owner.
I dream of a 1990 740 turbo intercooler wagon in red with the egg crate grill on high dress.
So red's okay for a Volvo wagon?
Yes. If it's a boring car, then red is good, and if it's a cool car, then red is bad. That's the rule.
Ooh, excuse me.
Like with Alfa Romeos, I like, for Alfa Romeo sedans, I like red.
Yeah.
And for Volvos and Mercedes sedans, I like red.
Okay. Yes, I'm a fan of Swedish Brick. 279 could get an Icons episode. Probably more likely a Revelations episode.
Are those are 2 and 7 the same? I thought 7 was like a big groundbreaking novel thing for Volvo, and that the 2...
And then 900 was 700.
The 900 was an evolution of the 700. So it's 7, 9...
But a Swedish Brick episode, I could do a Revelations. In fact, it's on the list.
Yeah.
But a Turbo Brick episode would be fun.
Yeah. What is the best Cosworth?
Oh, did I skip that one?
Yeah, 190 or Sierra.
Well, I own one of them. One of them has the best motor. The Mercedes has the engine. and the chassis is a 9, but the chassis on the Sierra is a 10. So, but the interior's a 10 on the Mercedes by comparison. The Mercedes wins on engine, interior, build quality, ride quality, overall inherent quality of construction, and the Sierra wins on chassis.
There you go.
So I can't decide. Draw.
Shall we call it? I think we're at an hour and 10.
Oh, we probably one more. Ever considered upgrading the horns on any of the cars you've owned?
Yes.
Yeah,
always air horns. I love the sound of air horns.
Yeah, air horns are
I
great.
think that's just a magnificent car noise.
So we are like an hour and 15 minutes or so, and we've gone through about half of just the questions that we chose to answer on this episode. And so I guess we'll probably do another episode in the near future, I feel.
Good. Someday.
It's easy. We don't have to do any research or homework. We just spout bullshit.
For some of these longer ones, we should.
Oh no, some of these questions were great and they're episode fodder. I mean, I think we will definitely hang on to that and do more of this, but not next week. Next week we have a special discussion about
on a new subject matter.
Yep. So thank you for the questions. Keep them coming, or don't until we
have
ask
too
you
many.
again. And we'll see you next week.
Alrighty.